And then, well, I'm Janet Huber-Neff. I'm the treasurer, if people don't know that. So I'm going to start with a word of prayer, then I'll introduce people, and then I'll go into the PowerPoint. So the Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Good and gracious Lord, we thank you for today and for the beauty of the earth and for the sunshine that we've been given today. We ask you to help us take care of all that you have given us. We pray that all that we said today and all that we did today brought glory to you. We thank you, Lord, for the generosity of others that enable us to do God's work in this synod. And we ask you for guidance in our financial meeting tonight and pray that our synod's finances will tell the story of God's love in Southeastern Pennsylvania Synod of the ERCA. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So my name is Janet Huber-Neff. I'm the treasurer. I've been the treasurer for 15 years. It's a long time. And I'm a member of St. Luke Devon. I'm also a Phillies fan. So I hope you people can come out to the Phillies night, the Lutheran night at the Phillies. And we're rebounding, so that's good. We didn't start out too good, but we're doing better now. I also want to thank Martin Schwab, our senior accountant. He helps me a lot. And so basically how we work here at the Synod is he takes care of all the accounting. Then once a month, he sends me the financial statements. And then I look at the financials. And if there's anything that I feel I want to talk to him about or change, we work together. After that, it goes quarterly to the financial team, Pia, who is the chairperson of the finance team. So basically, that's working very well for us. We're very fortunate to have Martin. We're very fortunate to have Pia, too, as the chairperson of the finance. And also, I think Marcia's on here from the investment committee. So we're very happy to have her, too, leading the investment committee team. So we have a lot of volunteers that are really helping us, and that's awesome. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to have a PowerPoint on, and there's going to be 3 sections. I'm going to go over our financials that had to do with last year, and they've been reconciled with the audit report. So that's going to come at the Synod Assembly to the audit report will come forward to receive that. And then Pia will be on later, and she'll be presenting the budget to you, and she'll be doing that at the assembly. I'm also going to have some slides tonight on the Fund for Mission and the St. Petri Hope funds, so you can get a better understanding about what goes on there. And Vice President is going to, yeah, she's going to present it at the assembly. So that's going to be good. So, and then what I'll do is after each segment, I'll give you an opportunity if you want to ask some questions about it. All right. So I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to go into the PowerPoint. Just a second. Here we go. Okay, make this a little bigger for myself. All right, so hopefully you can see the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Okay, good. Because sometimes when it shows, I have 2 screens, so sometimes when I'm just not sure. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you can see the PowerPoint. Okay, so the first part of the PowerPoint is our balance sheet, or what's called our statement of financial position. And on that, we show you where we were at the end of 25 and where we are at the end of 26. So you can see from that, and this is all taken from the audit report, that we have 21 million in what we call our cash and investments. And then we have our total assets, which are 25 million, which consist of other things like receivables and our lease and things like that, that bring us up to the 25,797. We have some liabilities. They're not much. They're more like current liabilities, which are like, when we get our mission support and then the following month we pay 50% of that to the ELCA, or if we have some bills that are in, that'll be there. And also the lease part of it, the debt part of the lease shows up there too. So basically, at the end, we have the net assets. So your assets and your minus your liabilities equal your net assets. And you can see that we have some, most of which is unrestricted, 18 million, but we do have some with donor restrictions that came from trusts, etc. So that's 6 million. So of the 25 million, 6 is restricted, 18 million is unrestricted. And when we talk about the fund for mission later, we have restricted that as the Synod, but it's technically an unrestricted fund. We have decided that we want to restrict it, similar to like the Lilly grants things. We have decided how we want to restrict it and what it's going to be used for. But technically, it's still considered an unrestricted fund. The next form, the statement we have is our statement of revenue. And I'm going to kind of go over what our various income streams are. So the first one, of course, is the mission support, and that is what we get from congregations and individuals if they designate it as mission support. And unfortunately, you can see that we are down this year. But Pia will talk about the budget more, but we're looking to increase, hopefully have an increase in our mission support because of the Love Revolution and the stewardship extravaganza that we've been having. So, and then the more we get the message out about what we're doing, the better. Other contributions are things like our All Saints Sunday reimbursements that we might have, trusts, any money coming in from the ELCA for our mission. And then we had a congregation in East Norriton that had closed a while ago. And when they had closed, they had some restricted funds. And we just kept them, they're restricted to use for any property expenses until that property was sold. And that was sold this year. We have registration fees, which are things like the assembly and the convocation. We have investment income, which is self-explanatory. We have beneficial interests in trust, the same idea. It's income oriented, investment oriented. So you can see from the investment income and the beneficial interest in trust that was much greater than we thought it would be. But we are not estimating that level for 27. We will be keeping it conservative. We feel it's always better to do it that way than to assume the greater. And then we also have income from trusts, and that represents the Fisher Trust, which is designated for Bucks County, and the Bauer Trust, which is designated for Liberty Lutheran. And then the last category is proceeds from property. And those properties that were sold were the St. Paul's East Norriton, and that was sold for 1,228,426. And the St. Paul's East Lansdowne was sold for 600,319. So those are the property sales that we have had. This kind of gives you an idea of mission support of where we are now and where we were. And so over that time period, it's been a reduction of 7%. We kind of give you an idea on this slide of how many congregations we have. But the important thing to notice is we have 17 that have no report that they did, and 19 that we didn't get any support. So if you look at that, that's 36 congregations, and that's about 25% of our total. So we do look at these numbers and we always try to say, if you could, as a congregation, if you could increase your mission support by 1%. So say you were at 2%, can you get to 3%, or 5%, can you get to 6%, etc. That's kind of what we're looking as a guideline. This slide shows our expenses, and our operating expenses we'll show you a little bit more about that in a little bit, but it's basically um, salaries, benefits, the amounts we pay to deans, insurance, audit, supplies, technology, rent, communications. A lot of it goes in to that operating expense category. Then the Lilly grants are 301,000, and that was the Love Revolution of 165,000, and Faith Alive, which is 136,000. And those were expenses that were paid out of the grants that we had received. The ELCA proportionate share, that's 50% of whatever we get in for mission support. Property management, that has to do with after a church closes, then we have the property, and these are the expenses that we continue to pay until we determine whether we're going to sell that property or whether we're going to use that property for a different purpose. So last year we had St. Paul's East Lansdowne, which did eventually sell, the Community of Love in Oxford, St. John's Tinicum, St. Paul's East Norriton, which sold, and our cemeteries expenses. So we have some churches that have closed that had cemeteries, and we now own those cemeteries and manage those cemeteries. In 2027, we expect less because we expect to only have maybe 2 properties plus the cemeteries. Distributions to other agencies, those are Muhlenberg, United Lutheran Seminary, Campus Ministry, Bear Creek, First Call, Lampa, and Lutheran Congregational Services. The remittance to designated agencies are when we receive income from a congregation for a specific purpose, and then we give those funds out to wherever they're designated for. Grants to organization, on the other hand, these represent funds from the ELCA to various congregations, the Forward Together in Faith grants, the Fund for Mission grants, the seminary debt, and hunger grants. So those are the expenses that we have. Now, in this pie chart, we kind of take those expenses and we divvy them out. So you can kind of see as a percentage of the total expenses of the 3,000,007, exactly where do we spend that? So 1,000,000 of that 3 is at partnerships, which I mentioned, Muhlenberg, etc. Mission is our 578, what we spend on that. Leadership is candidacy, etc. Administration, the Lilly grants, and the Office of the Bishop. And in these slides, you'll see more of a description. So when I talk about partnerships, exactly what types of partnerships are they? The next slide, mission. What exactly are we doing in mission, and what types of organizations are we supporting? Leadership, same thing, candidacy and lay leadership. Synod administration, as I mentioned, it's mostly office expenses, occupancy, insurance, etc. And then the Office of the Bishop is basically salaries, benefits, the deans, finance, communications, and Lilly grants. And then speaking of the Lilly grants as a separate category, you can see here in the slide how much we've spent in 25 versus 24, because 24 was when we first received the funds. And now you can see it's a 5-year program, and now it's getting going with some of the initiatives that were in the program. So with that, I'd like to ask if does anyone have any questions about what I've shown you so far, because the next slides are going to be more about the fund for mission.
Janet, I have one question. You showed as part of our income quite a bit of investment income.
Mhm.
Um, how is that investment income apportioned? If it came from the fund for mission, does it go back into the fund for mission, or where does that go?
Yeah, so we have a percentage that we use, and it goes back into the fund for mission. So that way you'll see in another slide about the fund for mission, and you'll see exactly how much is coming in through investments. But we're not taking the income from the investment income into our operating expenses. We're not using that for that purpose.
Thank you.
Janet, there's a question in the chat. What do you attribute the low registration fee compared to the projected for last year?
The registration, okay, wait. So what's the question exactly?
What do you attribute the low registration fee compared to the projected for last year?
Okay, yes. Okay, and that is because we did not have, I'm going to look at that a second. It's because there were no servant trips or fall retreats for the youth last year. So that's why it was down. And I think we have it that we're going to be up, but let me look. Under revenue, let's see here. Under the registration fees, a little bit higher for this year. So we're probably thinking, I don't know if we're really going to do as much in the youth area. It might be pretty much the same as it was this year.
Janet, I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so generally when we come to a finance report, our mind just goes to the basic two things that we are looking for. And you have it as separate in different slides. But I'm just wondering whether we could have the income and the expense just for 25 on the same slide, on the same page, so people can look at it. That'll give a clear snapshot of the entire finance thing that's going on. Is that possible, or is that too much to ask?
So, right, see, yeah, because I do the other report that I used to do, where I explain everything. So what you're saying is for the finance committee, you would like to see that's PowerPoint every time we have a finance, right?
For the assembly that we are getting ready for, I was wondering if that's possible.
Oh, well, the assembly, first of all, this is being recorded, so people can see this in detail.
Okay.
But when we get to the assembly, we won't have all these slides. We reduce them,
Oh, okay.
but the main ones will still be there, like the revenue, the expenses, and the statement of financial position will be there.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And we show that at the assembly. And the other thing is that people who go to the assembly can have a copy of the PowerPoint. So they'll be able to access it. So that way, like when they go back to their churches, and sometimes people try to say, how much did we bring in or what did we spend? They can refer to that PowerPoint. It'll be available to them.
Okay.
So, Janet, can I clarify? I think she was just looking for the total revenue figure of 6.8 versus what was the expenses for 25?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So basically, you're saying the revenue of 6.8 compared to the 5.3 that we had forecasted? Okay. Well,
No, not the forecasted income. I think she just wants to see total income and total expenses on the same slide.
oh, is that what she's looking for?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, I guess we could try that, but we'd have to condense it because, well, we have different categories, so they're not the same categories. So it would be like more like the revenue at the top and the expenses at the bottom because they're different categories. I mean, mission support is one thing, but and but the other things don't really apply to expenses.
Okay.
So, and some of this is being shown. For instance, the audit report. The audit report basically, what happens is the audit report will say 6,864,835. And then if you look at the audit report, we have to shuffle around some of the numbers to agree with that. So it's like our operating, then our investment income, then our beneficial interest, and the proceeds from the property, and then remittance to agencies, then that gets you to what the auditor's report will say. And the expenses are like the total expenses, the remittances, and the maintenance get you to their expenses. So that's why we're using different categories for this. So that's why, like on one slide, we'll show revenue, and then the other slide will show expenses.
Thank you.
We try to show it as easily as we can. We're trying to make it so that people understand it. Anything else? Okay, well then I'm going to move on. So this is something new that we're going to be presenting this year. And this is a 5-year track record of where we have been with the Fund for Mission, ELCA grants that have come in, donations, some of the sales of property, what we've had in investment gains, and then what we've actually given out in grants to organizations, churches specifically, and then what we've given to the mission budget. So you can see over the years what kinds of grants we have given. For instance, if you look back in 22, we only gave 21,000, but in 26, the year just ended, we gave out almost 200,000. That's a big change. And I'll tell you a little bit about how we calculate things in a second. So, and then we have so much that we give to the mission budget. So this kind of shows you over 5 years how the Fund for Mission has been doing. And you can see that it's doubled in value during that time period. At the end of 22, we had 6,660,000, and now we have 12,716,000. So that's been a big change in the mission, the Fund for Mission. And basically the calculation of how, well, first of all, we have a Fund for Mission charter, and we indicate exactly how congregations can apply for this, for the Fund for Mission, and it's for mission projects that they might be doing or ministries, etc. And I'm going to go to the next slide so you can see that in the last year, these were all the organizations that received grants from the Fund for Mission. So you can look at those, and I'm sure there'll be many on that list that you recognize, maybe some that you don't. In some cases, when we have a church that has the same name, we'll identify where it's at. So for instance, we have Christ, which is 30th and Diamond. We have a Christ Ascension, and we have Christ Upper Darby. So this way we kind of keep things straight, because I can get confused too. So these are all the ministries that we have given to during the year. And the calculation of this has to do with what our balance is. So we look at the December 31st balance of the previous year, and we multiply that times 5%, and we come up with a number. And any amounts that were unused in the previous year, we can roll that forward. So those are the amounts that we were eligible to use. And From that, we have the Synod budget, so that comes off the top, and then whatever's left, we have that for the grants that we've been able to give. And so far, so good, and we're very well within what we're allowed to do, and we've had many requests, and we work with the DIMS to figure out exactly, and the Vitality team to see exactly what mission grants we should be considering. So really, the Vitality team and the DEMS kind of work through this, and by the time it comes to the Fund for Mission trustees, we're more looking at the financial aspect of it. The other one that we have is called the St. Petri Hope Fund. And this is restricted to Northeast Philadelphia. And this happened because of a church closing, and they wanted to restrict the funds to Northeast Philadelphia. And so you can see in that what we have given out this year was $7,800, and the grants were to those places also for mission. So we look at mission objectives. We look at working with ecumenical partners, community partners, etc., for the distribution of the grants. And this one is actually run through not through Vitality, but usually the dean kind of lets the congregations know that this exists, and then it's kind of run through the dean of the Northeast Philadelphia Conference and requests to the Fund for Mission St. Petri Hope funds. Do I have any questions on that?
And Janet, this may not be in your purview because you were doing the numbers, but can you give us a couple of examples of the kinds of projects which are funded by the Fund for Mission? Your list shows the churches or organizations which receive the money, but can we get a sense of what kind of ministry is being done? I presume Fund for Mission is not available just for operating expenses. So I'm wondering what kind of ministry is being funded by these Fund for Mission grants.
Okay, I can try that a little bit, and if other people want to chime in, Pia, because she writes the reports, so she's better at it than I am. But basically, for instance, we can have hunger ministries going on. We can have like working with another organization, say if you're working with another nonprofit, and even that could be a building thing, like say it's an elevator and you get a community organization to help you with the elevator, and then through the church, the other nonprofit, the synod, all work together. Some of these are also some things from the care for creation type things. We've funded some of that to help congregations who are trying to be more stewards of their buildings, etc. It doesn't mean that we will not give property. If we need to do something where there's a request for curb appeal, like the outside of the church doesn't look so good, and it's important to know that there's ministry and mission going on. That's the most important thing. And we've tried new things. So you can see there's things on there like an Arabic outreach. There are various ministries that churches are trying, and they come to us because it's more mission oriented. And if Pia, you want to add anything to that, or Martin, or anyone, the bishop, that's great. We have a lot of things out there that people have gone through, and a lot of times it goes through Vitality and the DEMS, and then it comes to us.
I would focus very much on the fact that during this past winter, with funding cuts to so many things from areas of government that one would have expected, that there was a great deal of support for hunger, for food ministries, for making food available to communities, that were in need. Also, as Janet pointed out, reaching out to other ethnic communities and to be able to get some interaction going on and providing a welcoming stance to what we offer within the Lutheran Church. It's very much focused on reaching out to communities and how we can work with communities to benefit them.
Thank you.
I have a question,
Go
Barbara
ahead.
Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Could you go back one screen, the Fund for Mission screen?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the end of January 26, and I see we started out at 9,000,009. We ended up with 12,000,007.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot more money. Are we denying mission grants, or are we not getting them?
No, no, no. How we ended up with the 12 million, if you look at the property sales, so we had two churches that where they had originally closed, and now we finally sold the properties. So we added 1,600,000 to the Fund for Mission. And that's the idea that when a property sells, we put that into the Fund for Mission. Okay. And that's what ended up happening. 1,600,000 came in and added to that 10 million that was there. So that was part of it. Also, we did well in the market, and that's not always going to happen.
But if you look across the ending balance for the last 4 or 5 years, it keeps going up.
Yeah.
Should we be advertising this more to the churches? I mean, we're building a nest egg here when churches really need this money right now for so many things.
That's why we're doing this. That's why we started this year, because of the fact that I've tried at Synod Assembly to talk about it. And sometimes people either aren't at a Synod Assembly or they're not hearing it. So, what we're trying to do is put this together this year to help people understand that, hey, we have this, we have these funds available, and there are many organizations that have received funds. And basically, if I want to read this to you, I'll just give you an example of what the Fund for Mission is for. It supports efforts to equip rostered and lay leaders for the work of ministry. So, for instance, we could have a situation where there's great ministry happening, maybe within the church or in the church community, but maybe the minister needs some support in salary and benefits or something. That might happen depending upon the church and the ministry that's going on. They might need a little help with something that way. So that's something where we do support rostered and lay leaders. That's one thing. Support of new mission starts. Well, that's something big. Across the Synod, where collaboration funding has been established among ministry partners. The third one, support opportunities for vital ministries throughout southeastern Pennsylvania, including new ethnic populations, neighborhoods where people are living in poverty, and for the advancement of the gospel in urban settings. And support collaborative partnerships with congregations, ELCA, social ministry organizations, church-wide units, and ecumenical partners. So those are kinds of areas that we're looking for. And that was a good question about, well, what kinds of things do we give funds for, and how can they ask for the funds? And I guess I would say that if the deans know about these things and they can tell their rostered leaders about it, I think that's how it gets translated more. But it's not like we're going to fix the building, something like that. That's a little bit different.
Okay, thank you very much.
And we want to get the word out. Like I said, we're not here trying to hoard the funds and keep them and just keep them, constantly growing and investing. We want to reinvest, and that's why we're doing this. We really want people to understand we've got this fund for mission. We do have a procedure and what we're looking for, and more and more we're able to do this. And unfortunately, we're getting more cuts from the ELCA. So as the ELCA has cut back, we've tried and then to make up that difference if it's a vital ministry.
Got it.
Anything else? Okay. Well, I
There's a
think
hand up from Thelma Jacks.
Yes, I had to unmute myself. Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment regarding what the previous speaker had indicated. I saw that, I think in Ministry Link, that there's going to be a communication audit started. And I would hope that as a part of that communication audit and its outcome recommendations, that there be some plan to launch and continue the visibility of the resources that the Synod has available so that our congregation and members of those congregations can know what resources they can apply for and when.
mhm,
Just a comment.
mhm. That's what we're trying to do. We are trying,
Sure.
We're trying to get the word out.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I'm going to mute myself now because I'm going to let Pia go on. And I guess.
Okay, Paula, can you or can the slides be moved forward, please? Okay, hi, I'm Pia Graham. I'm the chair of the Finance Committee. And I work with Janet and Martin when we have a committee of 5 that end up meeting to review what Janet and Martin provide to us within those financial statements on a regular basis. And then work together also to look over what gets developed by them as a budget as we move forward. Just for some level setting also, most of us operate on an annual budget that would go from January through December. Or in business, it might be, June to May or July to June. Our annual budget runs from February 1st to January 31st, which is a little bit different, but we're based on what the church-wide does with the ELCA. So that's why you're seeing these numbers of our final numbers coming in at the end of January. So I hope that's a little bit helpful. Next slide, please. So I'm going to show you the same types of categories as what Janet showed you from that audit report, and doing a comparison of what our completed financial year, so that would have been February 1st, 2025 through January 31st, 2026, is the 2025 actual. And now what we are projecting and going to be asking for approval at Assembly for 2027 as running from February 1st, 2027 through January 31st, 2028. And the question might be, well, why aren't we doing 26? Well, we're already in our financial year for 2026. So you wouldn't be able to logically do an approval when you're already in the midst of doing those finances. So that's why we have it, these comparisons. So based on what our actual mission support this year was, of 1,475,000, we are projecting that revenue of mission support of 1,550,000, hoping that we would end up seeing some additional support coming in from the congregations. Even, and we do understand we are in tough financial times right now with costs going up across the board for everyone. And that's true for the churches as well. So, we may be a little optimistic here, but we do hope that churches, as they go through and do their budgets later this year, that they will find that maybe they can bump up like 1% of, what they are contributing on an annual basis. The other contributions, as Janet talked about, are registration fees, and we took into account that drop of not having as many events, and so took that into consideration with projecting a number for 2027 that was, a little bit less than previously projected. With investment income also, if you're looking at your 401k or your IRA, I'm sure you've seen, numbers bouncing up and down. I know that's been true for me and my family. So we're trying to be a little conservative here with not expecting that we're going to get as much investment income in our 2027 fiscal year as we did in the 2025. If we're lucky, maybe we will get more. Same thing is true when you're looking at interest income or income coming in from the trusts that are held. Again, those numbers are a little bit lower because we're looking to be conservative. And also, looking at the proceeds from property sales, that perhaps we will not have to be selling properties from closed churches, and that number will be coming down. Next slide, please. So this shows you, how we're dividing up, how that income that we're projecting is divided up. With the question from Tom Conroy, I'm going to have to ask that Janet take a look and see how that revenue that we're projecting for 2027 compares to what we projected for 2026, the year that we're currently in. I'm going to move forward in the meantime. So you'll see how this divides up that, 38% of our income is mission support. That's a big chunk. And looking at what we have from the various incomes and investment income in particular, being a significant amount. Next slide, please. So this is just a different visual for, these particular buckets. Again, this is another way of looking at these numbers to be able to compare between 2025's actual and 2027 with what we're budgeting. So hopefully that makes it a little bit clearer for people with regard to the numbers. Next slide, please. Now, moving on to expenses. As Janet talked about earlier, we incorporate a number of different buckets that we have for expenses, including our operating expenses to keep the lights on, make sure, pay salaries. And we do provide an annual increase to our staff members, because they're facing the same kind of budget issues, that everybody else does with regard to income. We're also going to be utilizing more of the money that we've gotten from our Lilly grants as these projects move forward and we get more and more congregations involved. This is money that's going to be maybe viewed as an expense, but it's coming back to congregations. We also end up having money that we send to the ELCA, that's 50%, of what we get from the congregations goes to the ELCA. As Janet also mentioned, we have property management fees that we have to handle as churches close and we go through the sale and closure of those properties. There are costs involved with settlement, and then also costs involved with maintaining those cemeteries. There are separate, line items for maintaining some of those cemeteries in perpetuity. And as she described of what our distributions to other agencies and the pass-throughs that we do as remittances, where something comes in from a congregation and we pass it then on to whatever agency they designated. Next slide, please. So this again shows you in more of a visual of how these, fall into different categories. Next slide, please. And this again gives you an example of how it compares to 2025's actual numbers and then, what we are budgeting for 2027. Expecting that certain things like operating expenses are going to, go up, but also that we will be distributing money as well. And, that will increase as well of what goes back out to congregations. Next slide, please. And I guess we're done. Any other questions than those that were, sent through with the chat? And thank you, Martin, for addressing those.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just going to say about the revenue that Tom had asked about, how does that compare to the budget of 26? So in 26, our budget for revenue was 4,000,000, about 200,000. And this year we're at 4,000,000. Where were we? Under the budget here, 4,000,000. Look, I got two different.
792.
Yeah, I have two different PowerPoints open at the same time. Yeah. So basically it was 4,000,002 versus 4,000,000, almost 8. So you're looking at 600,000. And to tell you the truth, 500,000 of that is really in our mission budget. And if you want me to look up the expenses, I can do that in a second too. Our expenses for 27 are 3,699,000, and our 2026 budget was just a second. 3,342,000. So basically 400,000 increase.
What
So
did we ask the congregations for in 2026 that you budgeted for income? mission support?
What did we ask? Now
Well,
that
well,
I
what
do,
did you budget? I guess I should say.
that I do not know. That's not.
So there's somewhere between the 1,400,000 and the 1,550,000 that you're asking that we're
Yeah,
budgeting.
I don't know if anything has gone out to congregations. So that's I couldn't answer
But
that.
I'm sorry, I should have said it differently, Janet. What did we budget in 26 for mission
The
support?
forecast
Oh,
for
okay.
mission support was 1.1, a million and a half.
Right. So
So
one,
you're 50,000 more this year.
right. So
Okay.
we had budgeted 1,600,000 in the 26 budget, but in 27 we're budgeting 1,500,000.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, I have a quick comment. As we are trying to tell the story about our finance and our ministry, not being able to see the 2026 budget leaves a big vacuum. And as we look at the report, something's missing and it keeps gnawing at us. So I'm just wondering, for clarity's sake, for people to really engage with the numbers, is it possible to add 2026? What we had budgeted for 2026 so we can see how we did in budgeting 2026 in comparison with 2025.
Well, Martin has already said that he's going to add the 26 budget to the slides for the assembly.
Okay, okay. And for the investment income, we did see the numbers. Does the finance committee look at the breakdown where it is being invested, what our portfolio is? Does the finance committee kind of make changes to that to have the best income
That's
out of that?
that's the
No,
responsibility of the investment committee.
exactly. The investment
And
committee does that.
Okay.
So
so
we meet quarterly with the investment advisors, and we have a managed account which we go over with the advisors every quarter. So 3 of the quarters we are on Zoom, and 1 quarter we are in person where we meet with them. And they go over it with us. And Martin gets the statements every month as to where we stand with our investments.
And have there been any recent major changes made to the portfolio, or has it been the same for, say, the last year or two?
Okay, so it was a big change that took a number of years for us to implement. So we just started with Gerard Investments this year in May. So our first meeting with them was in October. By the time they got all the information and everything, all the signatures and everything else. So this is a new thing for us, yes, because before the investment committee kind of made the decisions, but we now have professional management so the investment committee meets with the professional managers, and we have certain parameters that we say, so much in certain types of things, and we rebalance all the time so that we're within the parameters that we have recommended as an investment committee.
Mhm. So I see that the management is happening well, but I don't know if it's a good practice to communicate that management to the general body, just to give a sense of that the finance committee, that this is happening and it is the best steps are being taken, just so we can have a breakdown with the investment thing so everyone can see and
Yeah, Sarah, there should be a report from the investment committee in the bulletin of reports.
bulletin. Oh, okay, okay.
So there you can see the breakdown of what we invest in. And we do screen it from time to time to look
Oh,
for
okay.
social purpose stuff. We're kind of doing that as an ad hoc kind of direction of things. But yeah, we're still just getting used to Gerard and how they invest. But so far, we've been really pleased with the results. So
Okay. Thank you so much.
good question.
Janet?
Yeah.
I guess I would say, are there any other questions?
One quick question. You indicated that that salaries were increased. One of the things that we struggle with.
Oop, you went on mute.
I got a clock.
It's the top of the hour.
Yeah, it is. One of the
Although
things we
Zoom does
struggle-
really well at blocking it out because we don't hear it.
One of the things that we really struggle with is pay increases for staff salaries at the church. What type of an increase did the Synod have for their staff this past year?
We
3%.
have increased 3%.
So at 2.8, we were just a little bit below that. All right. And the other quick question is, you said you just recently switched to Gerard for investment advisement. I believe it was LPL before that. Why the change?
We weren't with LPL.
No,
No,
So
we weren't with LPL.
who was managing it before?
The
John,
investment committee.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
which is what made me super nervous that he was looking at a new call.
And how long has Gerard been contracted for?
Like I said, what happened when John Heidgard was with us and he was the investment chair, we started the process. It was a long process. By the time we interviewed a bunch of firms and we finally decided on Gerard, so they started in May of 25.
Okay.
I was say, Craig, I don't know that we're on a contractual obligation to be with them for any length of time.
Oh,
Martin,
okay.
we could leave tomorrow if we wanted to, but
Oh, okay.
we just got everything moved, so we're
I know they're
probably
doing. I know they're doing well for us, but I just wonder how long. That's all. Okay.
Yeah, the growing size of the fund for mission is one of the things that led us to say, I think it's time that we really need to put this in the hands of some professionals who are watching it on a regular, plus just market volatility. I mean, that's what everybody that I've ever talked to who's been dealing investments the last couple of years have been like, this is not normal, but it keeps going up, so we don't know what to do.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of like we keep holding our breath and, ride it as long as we can.
Great.
That
Phil, do you have a question? I think those are your eyes.
obviously it's not, but noticing that investment income is outpacing income from congregations.
Yes.
And would it be possible to track that over a period of time? I'm impressed that that we're being very conservative about income in the in the future, but with market volatility, right? I think we need to be careful that the Synod doesn't become dependent, falsely dependent upon investment income, and that would have a negative impact on congregational giving.
Well, Phil, as we said earlier, we do not right now. We do not depend upon the investment income. We're using that for our fund formation. Now, the only thing that happens when there's a property sale is before it goes to the fund for mission, the operating budget receives 15% of the net amount on the settlement from the property sale. So that does come in, but our normal operating budget doesn't receive funds from the investment because we're putting that towards mission. Does that answer your question?
Oh, did we lose
I
them?
just wanted to say thank you to all of you who answered the investment committee questions because a lot of things happened before I became chair of that committee, but I agree with everything that was said. Thanks.
I didn't know if you were still on. That's why I spoke.
I was lurking.
I shouldn't have spoken for you.
No, I appreciate it.
And I'm sorry about the gap of the 26 year. That's the weird part about doing Synod finances is at this assembly we'll report the actuals from 25 and approve the budget for 27. 26 was actually approved last year at last year's assembly. So,
Right.
but for context, I think you're right that throwing those numbers up there would be helpful for people to see where we're going. But that's the now and not yet of Synod finances.
Yeah, and I think we'll just put that in the budget part, not in the part where we're doing the audit report. Because the audit, we're just comparing, we're just showing the audit report, whereas with the budget, we'll show the 26 budget and then the 27 budget.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, without any more questions, I would just like to thank everyone for their participation this evening. A lot of good questions. Hopefully, you received information that you were looking for, or hopefully understandable. We keep trying to make it so that people understand what we're doing. And this will continue at the assembly, but as we said, not in the same amount of detail that we're talking about things tonight. But hopefully with the new additions that will continue to help people understand of where we are as a synod and how we are sharing God's love in the synod.
Thank you so much for your